Welcome back to another episode of the RADD Empowerment Podcast. This is Dan here with you to give you guys some things that you can take home and help hopefully improve your life. I'm really excited today. If you can't hear the nerves in my voice, they're completely there. I have a really special guest here, Dr. Tro. And before I introduce and tell you what he does, I want to just share how grateful I am to have him on the episode, because back in, I can remember in 2014, after our first nutrition seminar, saying to either my wife or my brother, because it went so well, that one day we'll have a doctor who recommends CrossFit or says, you need this. And the way that I met Dr. Tro was one of my members came to us because Dr. Troll told her she needed to start a strength and conditioning program. And with his help and guidance, it led her to us. And that was a moment for me as a coach. Really, really proud and happy that Dr. Tro had was able to tell her, listen, being proactive, go work out, you're going to help your nutrition, you're going to help your health. And Dr. Tro, really happy to have you. So you know that who he is. He is a medical weight loss and direct primary care doctor. He's in Tappan, New York, but he works with most of his patients remotely. And he has a similar mission to us, and that is to provide preventative care through lifestyle and dietary changes. Dr. Tro, thank you so much. We're going to share who you are, how you came to be where you are. And I just want to say thank you for joining us. And just tell us a little bit about that. I don't know if I missed anything.
No, you got it. You got it actually right, really well. Look, it's this is going to be fun. I'm excited to be here. We know each other now a bit. I think our philosophies align. Hopefully, kind of more and more, we're going to be able to work with each other. Bottom line is our world. You know what we say, we could say our state, we could say our counties, we could say but it's really the world is suffering from an obesity, diabetes, and chronic disease epidemic. And the problem is we have to start working together. And, you were a visionary back then in 2014, like saying, hey, there's going to be a day where doctors are saying we should do CrossFit. That day should have come like 40 years ago.
Agreed.
Right. That day should have come 40 years ago. And so, I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to be here. I'm actually more excited. I'm hoping, I have like this dream that maybe we'll work a little bit more closely in the future. And I think at least we can help each other.
Absolutely.
I'm happy to be here.
Same dream. Yeah. As soon as that member told me about it, I haven't been to the doctor in years. And I said, okay, I have to go see this guy. I have to see what's going on. And that's what we do. Here at RAD, I'm experimenting with my own health because my mission is to improve and get better so that I could share that with the members and help them grow and help them get better. And I went through the process. I made an appointment. I signed up. Dr. Tro spent over an hour on the phone on Zoom with me, at my first virtual visit and my first in-person visit over an hour, and, told me I was healthy, and told me the things I'm sure I've been working hard on and everything. But going through the process, knowing the way that he cares, where his passion is coming from, was an amazing thing. And today we're going to just talk to you and get to know Dr. Tro a little bit, because I've had the luxury or the privilege to have the conversations. We want to talk about his journey, and it all starts with childhood. For me, I grew up an athlete, playing sports, gained the weight in college. I've been reading your story, Dr. Tro, and as a kid, your story growing up was a little bit different. So, let us know, growing up, what was going on. This gives us a better understanding of why you're here today.
Yeah, I could tell you, I grew up, kind of, my parents were immigrants, right? So they came to this country with nothing, and they worked their butts off for me and my two brothers. And we were all obese. Basically, from inception. My parents were both obese. Mom had diabetes for a long time. Dad had, high blood pressure. And so, but they were out working 2 jobs each, right? And so what happens when you work 2 jobs each? Mom cooks a bunch on the weekends. So batch cooking, basically what we call it now. And then during the week, it was a struggle. I remember growing up, we would, me and my brothers would kind of look around and we would say, oh, there's nothing to eat. I remember one time I literally had a bread and mayonnaise sandwich as a kid, and my parents saw that, I remember, and they went to Burger King. There was like a 2-for-1 sale. They literally bought a bunch of Burger King and, kind of fast food stuff and just froze it. Said, if you guys are hungry, go eat it. And I remember that was like, maybe I was 7 years old. I mean, look, our when they cooked, the food was immensely healthy. I mean, spinach, chickpeas, meats, tabbouleh is like a parsley kind of, it's that was the food growing up, our ethnic food. But really it was like, months of Halloween candy, fast food because they needed something, and boxed cereal and Pop-Tarts, right? Because they just, they were out busting their butt for us.
Yeah.
Right. And,
so I have and I don't mean to interrupt you. I mean, we relate so much because my parents were immigrants in this country too, and they were both working full time. My dad always had 2 jobs growing up, and dinners were the same, boxed mashed potatoes or Chef Boyardee, Kraft macaroni and cheese with the packages and stuff. It was always something quick. And we were fortunate that because it was my twin brother and I and my 2 older sisters, so they had a lot of mouths to feed. So I could relate 100% because fast food was a thing that came up a lot for us too. Yeah. So,
it was, so, the first time I knew I was overweight, I remember it was 3rd grade. And this is really digging back, right? It was 3rd grade. I didn't really know. You don't really know anything about weight kind of before then. I mean, you look at somebody, they're bigger than somebody else, but I never really felt anything about it. I remember in 3rd grade, we had like this winter recital, and, they dressed us up, and I had little reindeer antlers on. I was the reindeer in the recital, right? And we had to run in place, and they were tape recording it. And I didn't think anything of it. Yeah. I was a reindeer running in place. And then one day during a snow day, they kept us all in the auditorium and they showed it. And I remember, running in place, all my fat was kind of jiggling around, and the entire class laughed. I remember that to this day. Wow. I mean, nobody and why am I bringing that up? I don't really it wasn't like a traumatic experience per se. I remember the cafeteria lady laughing, and that's what made me feel bad. The kids laughing, I was like, all right, I'm a little chunky and they're laughing fine. But the cafeteria lady was laughing, I remember. And that was the first time I knew, that was like maybe 8 years old, that, wait a second, I'm bigger than everybody else. Yeah. And it stayed that way. I mean, it really stayed that way until I was about 15 or 14. I was a big kid. And I mean, you got to understand, my older brother was, eventually he topped out at 400 pounds. My younger brother topped out at 400 pounds. I was, I remember being 13 years old and going into a doctor's office. And this is the day I was inspired to go into medicine. I went into the doctor's office. The whole family were there for our summer physicals, August. And first of all, we waited in their waiting room for about 3 hours, and watching TV. And a bunch of people were sitting right next to me, waiting for 3 hours, watching TV, right? Waiting in a typical office waiting room. Then we all get there, we go on the scale, and, my whole family were all, all 5 of us were overweight. And I remember I was 13, I was like 205 pounds, right? Which is actually, about where I weigh now. little bit higher than what I weigh now. But I remember the doctor looked at me and said, you're on your way to be like your family, and maybe you should eat less.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I remember thinking, first of all, this asshole made me wait. Sorry, am I allowed to do that? We're New York.
Yeah, well, don't worry. We're good.
Yeah. Okay. This asshole. Second of all, he could have freaking put a bicycle or a treadmill in his waiting room. I was waiting there 3 hours if he was telling me to eat less and move more.
Yeah.
And third of all, he was like, all right, he wants me to eat less. I'm not gonna eat anything.
Yeah.
13 years old, I was like, I'm not gonna eat anything. I actually went that day and I did probably the worst thing possible. I didn't eat for a month.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't eat for a month after that. And I lost an incredible amount of weight. And then I went back to him. He's like, well, you should, keep it up. That's what he said, by the way. He's like, he doesn't know how I did it, what I did, but keep it up. Yeah. Right. And, maybe you should eat a lot of salads and plants to keep it off. That started a low fat diet in me for the next, I don't know how long. I was vegetarian for a bit, vegan for a bit. Yeah. And that's me being 13, 14, 15. Then the weight just crept back on. Yeah. Crept back on. So that's where it started. I remember being 13 years old saying, I got to figure out how to beat this, right. And I'm going to be a doctor. I remember that was like the first time I was like, I'm doing this. Maybe I was in eighth grade or eighth or ninth grade. Yeah.
And then so you struggled with weight and decided that you wanted to be a doctor, right? And you pursue this passion you have of being a doctor, and you're still pursuing this journey with weight gain, weight loss, in medical school. How did all of that?
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I'm running in cross country. I'm 13, 14, 15, right? Running in cross country, eating a vegetarian diet, starving out of my mind, trying to keep the weight off. And then basically from that point on, I gained about 5 to 10 pounds a year. 5 to 10 pounds a year. I had no insight into appetite. I had no insight how to manage cravings. I had nothing. Yeah. Right. So basically I put on about 10 pounds per year. In college, I went off, I put on 10 pounds a year. I had no idea how to actually properly nourish myself. Right. Right. But I had a passion. I wanted to beat the gene. I wanted to beat my, parents' genes, and I wanted to do something, be something greater. I wanted to protect other people from that douche doctor that, told me to eat less and said, you're doing a great job. Go eat some plants. I remember being in college saying, I'm going to have a gym. I'm going to have a physician's office with a gym in it. Yeah. Right. That's what I'm going to do, because what the hell, if they're waiting there, they might as well wait on a, Stairmaster or treadmill or rower, or be inspired to move, And go to medical school. Right. And I started medical school at maybe 280 pounds. In the third year or fourth year there, I was 350 pounds. Wow. Right. So, and I love to exercise, by the way. So, I'm not discounting the power of exercise, but, I love to exercise, but I didn't have a good understanding of how to manage appetite and how to manage hunger and what good nutrition actually looks like, despite being highly educated.
Yeah. And that's crazy to me. And, I hear so much that, nutrition is not a part of the education process when you're becoming a doctor. So how did you begin to become so educated? I mean, I was obviously through your own experimenting in your own journey and weight loss, but how did that happen? How did you start to educate yourself?
And there was a moment. So fast forward, I go, I finished medical school. I go to an internal medicine residency. It's like a 3-year time frame where you go and you complete your training. Basically, it's like basically like an apprenticeship. And I trained in the Yale system at Greenwich Hospital. I ended up being the chief resident there. And I remember kind of towards the end of that, I took my board exam, scored on the 90th percentile on my board exam. I felt like I was a hotshot doctor, and new evidence, I was a skeptic. I looked into everything. Like that was the person I was, I think that was my saving grace. That was like the building blocks of what made me who I am now. Was any part of medicine, I didn't take what they said. I said, I want to know why they're saying it and why, why the guidelines say what they say, right? I always went to the evidence all the way down. I went down every rabbit hole. And when I went into medical school, I was like, I barely made it.
Yeah.
I barely made it. When I left residency and was chief resident, I'm 90th percentile on my board exam. And what made that happen, to go from the bottom to the top, right, in terms of my academic performance, was a unwavering desire to keep learning.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Learn more, learn better. I want to know why. I want to know, why not. I want to know the chinks in the armor, whatever it is. You have pneumonia, what are the treatments? Which treatment is better? Why? What are the studies? What do the studies show? What are the faults in those studies? Right. So that's the underpinning, right? And then my wife, who's an attorney, and now, she owns it's funny. She owns a low carb baking mix company, which she's worked on, but she's a smart cookie. She knows how to play me, and she's pregnant with our third kid. And she's like, you know what, Tro, you're a smart doctor, you should be able to figure this out, what's, you should be able to figure out what's going on with your weight. And she's like, you figured out this, issue that, my dad had, that was her dad, my father-in-law. You figured out these diagnoses. I know, we know what you've done in your 4-year program, back in Greenwich, internal medicine at the Yale program. And, we know what you've done. And she totally played me. And she basically ended off, said, are you going to be alive to enjoy your kids?
Yeah.
I'm a 350-pound doctor. I know a little about nutrition, not much, but I know a little about nutrition. We got maybe 10, I don't know, like 20 hours in medical school, not really all that much.
Yeah.
So I went back to the books. I was like, you know what, if this was pneumonia, what would I do? If this was COVID, what would I do? I would look at all the studies. I would read them. I would criticize them. I would go deeper into the authors who wrote those studies. What other studies did they do? And so that's what I did.
Yeah.
I started back in my medical school notes and medical school, textbooks, read everything about nutrition, then just went deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole.
Right.
And when you go deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole, you see what a bunch of lies we were told.
Mm-hmm.
Low carb consistently outperforms low fat.
Right.
And I'm like, wait, what? And then, intermittent fasting is equal to, and in some cases, better than just calorie restriction and eating multiple small meals a day.
Yeah.
So everything we were taught, do low fat, do low calories, exercise more, do more cardio, it was basically all wrong.
Right.
It was all wrong.
Right. And I'm going to pause right there, because the challenge that I'm seeing there is that this was all done because you were motivated to do that. It's not something it's not something that is required of doctors to do. You did your own research. You were proactive about figuring out the problem and how to solve it. And it's just, to me, I feel like it should be a requirement. The work and the research and the studying that you did should be a requirement for us to be able to help people, because you learned, and we're going to get to it, that there's a really good way to go about this, right? To treat people, to help people, to guide them, and I wanted to make that note, like that important note, because I appreciate you for doing the research and doing the work and figuring it out. And it was for you, and that's where it all started for me too is I lost my weight and felt really good about it and wanted to share that with people. So I just want to say thank you for doing that research, and
Well, I mean, let me just tell you how deep it goes. Okay. So not only is it mainstream medical messaging to say, eat breakfast, it's the most important meal, eat the size of your palm, eat multiple small meals a day, have low fat, avoid fats, don't eat red meat, don't eat, avoid meat in general, right? There are major forces that say this, and this is how we're taught, right? And here's the problem. The Dietary Guidelines for America say this. The AHA, the American Heart Association, says it, and they put their heart healthy sticker on Pop-Tarts and Cheerios and Pringles. So the American Cancer Society says the same thing, and the American Diabetes Association at the time said the same thing.
Right.
So when you have so many people saying the same thing, it's very easy to just accept it and say, okay, this is the evidence that all the experts agree. Right. But that was never my MO. And what made me good at being a doctor was going and saying, how do they get to those conclusions? Where are the studies? Let me look at the studies. Let me look at the authors of those studies. Let me see what else they have published. Right. And that was a key part of this is like, I'm not going to just do what you tell me. I'm going to learn why you're telling me this.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what most doctors miss now. They're brilliant people, right? But they haven't gone back to the drawing board, right? Maybe the word is nihilism. They need a little bit of convince me, right? Convince me that this is the right way.
Right.
And in terms of motivation, I mean, that motivation's been there since 8 years old.
Yeah.
I didn't want to, I didn't want to be overweight. So I wanted to be a normal weight. I wanted to have control over eating.
Yeah.
That's it. It's not so much about the weight. I just wanted to understand, why am I voraciously hungry? And is there anything I could do about it?
Yeah.
Why am I eating? Why is it my wife right now, she can look at like a bag of Pringles or whatever, a bag of chips, eat 3 of them and stop. And I can't. Why can't I do that? Right. So what is it? What drives appetite? What drives hunger? What drives satiety? And that's where it started. And then basically, as you are empowered with information and you have a desire to change, right, you will continually kind of seek out better and better information. And now you're empowered to make that change happen. So I just started going low carb.
Yeah.
Then the weight started coming off and I wasn't hungry. And then I was like, oh, I'm not hungry anymore. Let me just not eat. I'm not going to force myself to eat if I'm not hungry. And I ended up eating, maybe like 10 meals a week. Right. And if I went and told my doctor when I was 13 that I'm eating a bunch of meat, fish, chicken, eggs, Greek yogurt, and green leafy vegetables and berries,
right,
and I'm eating 1 to 2 meals a day, he would have gasped, gonna kill yourself. And so
I'm gasping a little bit because I'll be completely honest. I don't promote the fasting. I don't experiment with that with my clients. I'm still not fully convinced. Maybe this can be a conversation about convincing me. We have so much that we can talk about. But I agree with you.
Signal, man. You got a different. So when you are forcing the body for hypertrophy and strength, we may have competing goals, right? To some extent. So if you have somebody in resistance training, what's the signal you want them to get? It's build muscle. MPS, you want them to have 2 to 3 hits of protein a day. You may want that to build muscle. Now, we have to balance that in relation to what else is coming with that MPS, that protein hit you want them to have. Typically, either a little bit of carbs or fat or both, right? So now if somebody has a regulated appetite, no problem, right? Now, you get the best of both worlds, if you find, so bottom line is, yeah, absolutely. If you're trying to build muscle, you may benefit from having protein more frequently, right? I think it's a competing goal thing, but let's just say every time you eat, you tend to overeat.
Yeah.
You know, well, you got to balance that now. Like, okay, if you're not eating and you're not hungry, should I force somebody who has difficulty controlling their portions to overeat, to eat again, like to stimulate them to eat again? So you're right. It's not nuanced. 1 to 2 meals isn't right for everybody.
Right. And that's
right?
it's important to note the different types of clientele that we attract. Here at RAD, we attract a person, a certain type of person. And Dr. Tro, after listening to a bunch of your podcast episodes, I can hear the challenges your clients are facing, and they're, in my opinion, a lot more severe. So if we talked about this fitness journey on a gradient, right? People who are laying down in this fitness industry, or standing up, or walking, or jogging, or sprinting, I attract the types of people who are jogging. You have the people that are just basically standing up, right? Or maybe even, I don't know, if they're laying down, they're past laying down. I mean, you've helped some people with some amazing things, so talk a little bit more about some of the things you're seeing, who you attract, the challenges they're having. It's just to give our listeners an idea, because when you promote a fasting and a low carb nutrition, it's to your community mainly, and it could work for some of my clients, but there are things that can, depending on goals, can be different.
Absolutely. So I'll tell you a couple of things. So here's the thing. In CrossFit athletes, okay, they've done, so let me tell you what intermittent fasting and carb restriction, what happens when you go on a carb restricted or intermittent fasting diet for exercise performance. Okay, your exercise performance will consistently suffer for 4 weeks. Okay, meaning if you started dropping your carbs right now, or intermittent fasting right now, and you're any type of athlete, elite, race walker, a weightlifter, an endurance athlete, doesn't matter, taekwondo, martial arts, if it's 3 weeks or less, you will undeniably have a decrease in exercise performance. This is called the keto flu, basically. This is the period where people go on a low carb diet and they feel miserable, right? And they have to you can mitigate those symptoms. You can take in more salt, electrolytes, so there's a lot of things you can do to kind of not feel so sluggish. Now, when you fast forward that time frame, right, it takes your body time to adapt to using a different fuel source, right? So if you're giving your body carbohydrates, it's going to predominantly use carbohydrates. If you give yourself fat, it's going to use fat, right? So making that switch can take months. So what we know reliably is at 3 months, it doesn't matter whether you're an elite level gymnast, an Olympic weightlifter, a CrossFit athlete, a HIIT athlete, or an endurance athlete. At 3 months, okay, and this is even like semi-pro and elite level data, that performance equalizes. Okay, the performance equalizes. So somewhere between 3 weeks and 12 weeks is when the body truly adapts to using a different fuel source as its predominant fuel source. Now, there are specific requirements you may have, right? So say I'll come up with the ideal athlete to do a low carb diet in. They're off season, right? They're off season and they have body composition issues. They have fat mass they want to decrease. That's the ideal person, right? You tell them, hey, you're going to have to take it easy, supplement with electrolytes for the first month, then you're free to go. You're going to be riding high. Okay. If I have somebody that's going to the CrossFit games, next month, I would never put them on a low carb diet.
Yeah.
Never do it because they're going to suffer, right? So their performance will suffer. So, and let's say somebody is already lean, has no body composition issues. They don't really want to get fat off. They want to concentrate on building muscle. Then, why would I use a ketogenic diet, right? A ketogenic diet inhibits appetite. It kind of, it has some benefits, but I'd say, it has some other benefits that are potentially worth noting, mental health benefits, migraines, reflux, other things. But, I think bottom line is, if you have an athlete who's got fat that they want to lose, right, and they're off season, that's the ideal person. Now, if your training volume goes significantly higher than an hour per day, okay, that's typically when I'll say you need to probably periodize carbohydrates to that exercise.
Yeah.
Right, because your body can use fat for fuel, at basically 70% of VO2 max. If you're crossing above that threshold, you need, and for a sufficiently long amount of time, you're going to want to supplement with carbohydrates. So there's all these unique characteristics. If you came to me, and you said, Tro, I want to do a low carb diet, I tell you, one, your performance is going to suffer for a month. Two, you're going to need to supplement with salt, magnesium, and potassium, right? And three, you probably are going to want to periodize carbohydrate to exercise, right? At least for the first 2 months. Yeah. So you're absolutely right. There are specific, very specific kind of scenarios. The ideal person coming to me, they failed everything else.
Yeah.
They can't get a hold of it. They don't feel like they have control over their diet. They want more insight into what is making them hungry, what will make them full, how do they get full quicker, do they need to eat, how frequently do they need to eat? I have tried everything. Mm-hmm. That's the people I love. Yeah. Right. I have tried everything and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Those are the people that we really have a lot of success with. And, it's not a get rich quick scheme. When I first started, this is 5 years ago, now I'm board certified in obesity medicine, and I'm a published author on diabetes, obesity, binge eating, now cholesterol. The bottom line is what I tell you, when I first started 5 years ago doing this specifically, we said the program's 4 months. And within a year, I was like, it's not long enough. Right. Long enough. And we made it 6 months. Right. And honestly, we really should probably make it a year, because it's tough to unpack, the mentality. And right. We've talked a lot about this. Yeah. Where, like somebody has a car, right? They get a flat tire. What do? They call for help right away. Yeah. They go fix it right away. They wouldn't, get out of the car, pop all the tires, smash all the windows, and wait until next week, and wait until next month, and wait until next year, and say, you know what? I called AAA once before. I'm not going to call them again. You know what I mean? Like, they wouldn't do that. Yeah. But when it comes to eating, right? How much of that mentality have you seen? Oh man. Yeah. That's the challenge we always have. We have the strategy and we have what you're willing to do, what you're willing to believe. And that's always, we were talking about that. That's the challenge, is the psychological aspect of it, people. And if in your case, you had success with not eating and eating less and losing weight. So, I mean, how many times did you go back to that before you decided this is just not working? A lot of the clients we have come to us and they're doing the same things over and over again because it worked a little bit for them in the past. The mindset's a hard thing to change. I mean, so that's a problem, right? Because I can go back to not eating for 30 days, but that's going to kill my metabolism. Right. Right. You have to view it differently. Like, what does my body need to decrease its hunger? Right. I was just central planning at age of 13. I mean, I'm just pouring out my whole, life story here. But at the age of 13, I was just using central planning to control my eating, right? Despite hunger, right? Despite huge amounts of hunger, not understanding hunger. Yeah. Right. Once you understand, hey, your body needs a certain amount of things. It needs certain minerals. It needs a certain amount of protein. And then that hunger becomes manageable. Now, then how do you address cravings? Right. Right. I mean, look, I have people that can't say no to pizza. Mm-hmm. They eat pizza till it hurts. I have people who every night they struggle with chips. Right. When the kids are asleep and they're by themselves, they eat chips. So we come up with strategies based on their vulnerabilities. Right. If every single night is a problem for you, let's come up with a good, better, best. Right. We'll replace it out. Start by we'll get you some Quest chips. right? So just start there.
Yeah.
And have a clear vision of what your progression is going to be, right? In terms of how you're going to manage your appetite. And maybe, right now your progression will go from Pringles to Quest chips. Maybe at some point it'll go from Quest chips to a bowl of Greek yogurt.
Yeah.
And maybe it'll go from a bowl of Greek yogurt to it's 11 o'clock. I probably should be sleeping.
Yeah.
Right. And so maybe you're going to find that stress makes you hungry. That's a unified message we've seen here in our practice, right? How do you manage that hunger? Right now you're eating, a bunch of Snickers and Halloween candy.
Right.
Well, can we come up with can we educate you on why you're hungry at that time, right? And we have tools to kind of help figure that out. CGMs, ketone meters, we have a lot of ways to kind of empower people to really understand why they're hungry.
Yeah.
Right. Most people don't know. I didn't know. I was a 350-pound board certified doctor. I didn't know what makes humans hungry, what makes humans full.
Yeah.
And then you come up with, strategies.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm curious too, on what makes people hungry. What did you find?
Yeah, it's so the biggest all right. So
Loaded question.
No. Hunger is there's basically like 6 major hungers. Okay, 6 major hungers. Some of them are simple. Okay, them. We're going to put words on them so you can recognize them. The cephalic response is if I put a pizza in front of you, what happens?
Salivate.
You salivate. Do you control that? No, right? So that's called the cephalic phase response. You smell something, see something, and now you're getting hungry uncontrollably just looking at it, right? That's a cephalic phase response. That's one hunger I cannot control, right? No matter what diet you're on, you got to deal with that, okay? Another hunger that you probably know is, let's say you're out with your friends. What do you do? Or you're Thanksgiving. What do you do?
Eat.
What are we doing? You eat. So the social cue to eat, just try some, have a little bit of this. Let's go out for dinner, right? I can't get rid of that.
Right.
Okay. So you have food cues or the cephalic phase response. You have social cues. These things we can't get rid of, right? So now there's a whole bunch of other hungers that we potentially can mitigate. So the one of them is the it's called glycemic dipping.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, glycemic dipping. And you ever met somebody with diabetes who injected insulin?
Yes.
Okay, their blood sugar goes low. What do they say? They say, I feel weak, I feel a little tired. They injected too much insulin. Their blood sugar is low. They say, weak, I'm tired. They say, go get me
sugar.
They don't say get the white powder. What do they say?
But yeah, something like fruit or juice.
Get me juice, get me chocolate, get me ice cream, right? So this glycemic dipping is actually a huge hunger that people need to know about. This blood sugar going down. Now, should that diabetic patient, should you turn around and be like, you should be ashamed of yourself for asking juice because your blood sugar is low? Would you do that?
No.
Should you do that? No, you wouldn't do that. You understand,
right? Hey,
if their blood sugar is going down, right, that their brain is going to say, get me something awesome.
Right.
Right. And remember, it's not the part of the brain that's deciding to be good, deciding to go to CrossFit, deciding to go learn about appetite. It's the impulse part of the brain that's getting a signal, which is get me awesome food.
Right. The survival
right?
part.
Yeah, exactly. And that instinct is big, it has a pretty clear signal. So that glycemic dipping is a hunger that can be modified. You ever have a bunch of Chinese food, right? You eat a bunch of Chinese food, chicken and broccoli, a little bit of rice, a little bit of egg roll, and then you're kind of full and you're like, I don't want to eat anymore. 3 hours later, that cold Chinese food, you're like, where is it? It tastes even, and you get to it and the leftovers taste better. Yeah. Has it ever happened to you? The leftovers taste better?
Long time ago. It's been a while since Chinese, but yes.
Yeah. So if you went to a Chinese food store and they gave you cold Chinese, what would you do?
I'd probably say no.
You'd just be like, this is terrible. What are you doing?
Yeah,
Give me if you ever have that with pizza too? Maybe you had one slice of pizza, then a couple hours later, you're having another slice of pizza. You're like, why does this cold pizza taste better?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's going on here? What makes that happen, right? Your stomach's full, you kind of ate, right? But 3 hours later, this food actually tastes better. That's glycemic dipping. You ate this food that's high in carbohydrate, your blood sugar goes high, and then your body's trying to handle it and it goes down. Just like that diabetic patient, when that blood sugar is going down, what do they say? Get me something awesome, right? Get me chocolate, So this is what's making you say, accept cold Chinese food, where normally you never would.
Right.
Or cold pizza, where normally you never would. Except now you're saying this is even better. This is even better. That's called glycemic dipping.
Yeah.
Right. And pretty universally, anybody with obesity has that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that pretty much. And they blame themselves. They come in and they say, I just can't stop eating pizza. And then we put them on a blood sugar monitor and like, it's literally, here's the reason why.
Yeah.
And you give them a low carb pizza, you know what happens? The first day they eat a low carb pizza, right? They eat the same amount of energy they would have. And they're like, oh my God, I literally had one person say, I've never eaten pizza and felt the voices in my head to eat go away. Just by changing it to low carb. Right. Because now the blood sugar is a little more stable, a little bit more managed. Right. So the best way you could kind of say it is, how many slices of pizza till you get hungry?
Me?
Yeah. How many slices?
You don't want to.
Sorry, to get
You
full.
don't want to know.
Just give me like a quick,
I could go through a whole pie.
Okay, like on a reasonably full.
Five slices.
5 slices. Okay,
Yeah.
5 slices in Long Island. That's probably like 2,000 calories.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just make it a low carb food.
Sorry.
All right, let's pretend it was egg.
Yamani just tried to get into Zoom, just so you know, and
Let me call her.
definitely not having. Sorry, my wife has another call, and I don't know if she. But it's not.
Yeah, we'll end it.
We're not ending. We're not ending. No.
Yeah,
She's gonna take a phone call.
Yeah. Bottom line, when you if you compared that pizza, it takes 2,000 calories to get full, right? If you did that with a low carb food, pick eggs, for example. 2,000 calories of eggs is like, I don't know, 30 eggs, something like that. You ever eaten 30 eggs?
No.
If you ate 30 eggs, would you be craving 30 eggs cold?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
So this is why the calories aren't so important sometimes. But what are those what kind of hunger do those calories create, and what kind of what kind of brain satiety are you getting right from those calories? So that's glycemic dipping. That's a type of hunger that can be modified by diet, right? And there's other understanding the what hunger is to the brain, right? That's a whole nother lecture. But bottom line, the brain loves carbs and fat put together. If you understand that, you'll understand how you crave food. Pizza, carbs and fat. Potato chips, carbs and fat. Ice cream, carbs and fat. Chocolate, carbs and fat. French fries, carbs and fat. Cookies, cake, donuts, carbs and fat. This is the brain's, cheeseburger, carbs and fat. Fried chicken, carbs and fat, right? So that's the food reward hunger I like to, tell patients about. This is a hunger that you really need to know. People think that they have like this unique food preference. Nobody has a unique food preference.
Right.
Basically, take carbs and fat, your brain's going to love it.
Yeah.
So these are the hungers that I try to get, patients with obesity to understand. And the hardest one is understanding stress-induced hunger.
Yeah.
And that's a whole long lecture. I won't go into it. But these are the 5 main hungers we try to get people to understand. And when they understand that, now the power's in their hands, and now we can prepare for these hungers, right? Instead of just saying like, you know what, I messed up, and you know what, I might as well stay off plan and I'll start again next month or next week or whatever it is, right? We got to get out of that and empower people with information. And then once they have that information, create an action plan.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. Yeah. So your mission for your patients, we're given a little taste of what it's like to kind of, we're getting to know you really. And, I'm walking away feeling a little bit more educated and able to help people because, the stages of hunger is something that, I knew existed but didn't understand the way that you just explained it, and it makes a lot of sense. So working with your patients, and we're not going to keep you too long, what's your mission? I know that you've mentioned to me that you work with a lot of your patients remotely. When I listen to your podcast, I hear you're certified in a lot of states, right? Just give us a little bit about what that's like for you. What's the mission? What's your mission, and how do you serve?
Yeah, I mean, look, making metabolic health easy. So if somebody needs help with, weight loss, or they want to like a deep dive into their health, right? And they want to get a sense of is there something that's uncovered that they need to be uncovered. They want kind of like a doctor that's going to spend time with them, figure out what's driving their ill health, or is there something more they can do? I'd say the top two people coming to me are, one, somebody who has a lot of weight to lose and wants to empower themselves with an information and a plan, right, on how to lose weight, right? I think that's the people that we really love. And then the other people that really come to us are people who are looking to optimize. Like, I want to look underneath my hood and make sure no stone's unturned. I'm as healthy as I think. So we have what we call a lot of worried well, which is people who are like, just like you, they're pretty damn good shape. They know they've put in the work, and they want to make sure that there's nothing they missed.
Right.
There's nothing they missed. So those are like two, the major people coming to me. And I think the way we help them is basically time and extensive lab work, and sometimes monitoring. Right. So putting a continuous glucose monitor on them, measuring their blood pressure, monitoring their weights remotely, monitoring their heart rhythms remotely, getting a sleep study wherever they are in the country. I mean, these are the kind of things that we do, assessing their hearts,
Right.
coordinating with their medical teams. I mean, we're basically like a full service telemedicine company.
And that's awesome. And I know that we could go off into the weeds talking about this, but for me, it's especially awesome to hear you say that, because for most people, when they go to the doctor, it's a different conversation. Here's the magic pill, right? This is what's going to help you. This is where we're going to go. And I know that this is, there's a need. If someone's struggling, if someone has issues, there's a need to medicate. But some people leave a doctor's office like, well, you're at risk for this, that, and the other thing. So you just need clean diet and exercise without any guidance, without any education, without any, hey, this is what you can do, right? So it's really awesome to hear you say that,
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm happy to be here. I'm lovely, I know now, we've had great success kind of working together. I'm going to continue kind of sending my patients your way. I know they're in great hands, especially if they're on the island. It's nice to be able to meet people with the same vision of getting people healthy, right? And knowing that there's no quick fix. This is not easy. This is not like get your, get somebody in and then walk them, see them. It's basically being your brother's keeper.
Yeah.
That's it, and you know that better than everybody else.
Well, we've been fighting along, and you know how it is right now. Not a lot of people are doing what we're doing. So we're kind of pioneers in this, trying to raise more awareness. And, we're going to take off this way and leave it on this. Hopefully, maybe have you back for some deeper conversations. I know we've talked a lot about other things that we could bring. I know your time is very valuable. So I want to tell you thank you again. I don't know if I've thanked you enough. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to link all of your information, your podcast, your website to the show notes here. And if anyone has questions or anything, please email me, text me. We'll get back to you. If you enjoy the show, please like and subscribe and share this episode with anyone you come across. We're just trying to spread awareness and tell you guys that taking care of yourself, being proactive for yourself is definitely encouraged, and we can help you do it. So, Dr. Tro, thank you so much.
Thank you.